Just giving everyone a heads up. I'm not recording just yet, but I am preparing the live stream to YouTube and Facebook. Just giving everyone a healthy heads up. Ooh, I see Miss Fisher. Dr. Irvin, saw you joined us. Happy Sunday, sir. Live to YouTube and Facebook.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Looks like Houston, we are ready for a go.
All right, we're recording now. Please take it away, Youth Advisory Board.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll have a few further remarks in a minute or two. I think we're going to begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Clerk, are you going to be leading that?
I believe our fearless township manager will be keeping with the trend and leading our Pledge of Allegiance this year.
All right, I have my flag in the background. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Manager Kaczynski.
All right, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you joining us. My name is Kawan G, and I'm one of the adult advisors for the TNEC Youth Advisory Board. The TNEC Youth Advisory Board, also known as YAB, is a civics-based youth leadership organization that aims to empower, express ideas, and bridge the gap between TNEC township officials and its youth. We want our students to be engaged, informed, and excited about the political process here in TNEC and in their travels beyond. In May of 1990, the Youth Advisory Board was established by Councilman Lou Schwartz in the wake of the Philip Connell shooting as a way to actively engage our town's youth. After several years of dormancy, it was later reinstated in its present form by Mayor Lizette Parker in 2007. It's been 31 years since the tragic moment that led to the creation of YAB, yet we are still here working to facilitate dialogue between township officials and TNEC's greatest asset, our young people. From top to bottom, everything you'll see this afternoon has been coordinated by our scholars. They've worked exceptionally hard to put this together, and I'd like to thank them for their efforts, especially our chair, Ben Fox, and vice chair, Desai Sanchez. With that said, before we begin, I just have a few quick housekeeping notes. I just wanted to, if you didn't hear Doug earlier, I just wanted to inform you all that this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed via social media platforms on dates to be determined at the sole discretion of the Youth Advisory Board. It is acknowledged that YAB has the right to photograph, reproduce, voice, appearance, name, and to distribute any and all such reproductions containing all participants' voice and appearance. It is understood YAB is conducting such activities in express reliance upon the foregoing, and all participants represent and agree that YAB shall have the rights granted hereunder. If any participant is under the age of 18, such participant acknowledge he or she must obtain consent from his or her legal guardians in order to participate in the event. I mention all this legal jargon basically to say that we'll be posting this event for educational purposes on our social media. If you're in any way uncomfortable with that, feel free to just listen in. In addition, I encourage you all to check out our Facebook and our Instagram pages if you haven't already done so. It's at TNEC YAB. Also important for all of our student participants, please direct message me in the chat with your name and email address so that we can add you to our list for our prize raffle and community service credit. We're going to conduct the raffle live at the end of this event, and that will be for the grand prizes, and our township manager will be doing a TNEC trivia. So for that, we'll be giving out gift cards to folks who answer those questions correctly. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our Youth Advisory Chairman, Mr. Benjamin Fox.
Thank you, Mr. G. And I first want to begin by thanking everyone who is listening live on YouTube, and everyone who'll be listening to the live stream, and everyone who'll be listening to this event afterwards. This event is titled Building Bonds to Government, TNEC Civics event. This is the second event that we had. The previous event we held last December prior to the pandemic. And while the forum may be a little different, we are now on Zoom as opposed to in person at TNEC High School. I think the message remains the same. And I think that through Zoom, we can see the importance of building bonds and building connections, how despite the fact that we cannot be in person at this moment, we can continue to learn and we can continue to grow as a community together through this platform. Again, the event is titled Building Bonds to Government. The idea is for the Youth Advisory Board to create a civics event where the youth of the community as a whole can meet and come together with the township leaders, township elected officials, township clerk, township manager, and other township officials and Board of Education members to learn more about their jobs and to learn what it takes to run the TNEC community and government, and how the youth of the community can meet and understand and learn better what the township officials do, and to build connections between the two for further progress and further communication and further connections going forward. I want to begin, and I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank all the panelists. I want to thank Township Clerk, Doug Roussillon. I want to thank the Township Manager, Dean Kaczynski. I want to thank the Fire Chief, Jordan Zaretsky, the member of the Community Police, Lieutenant Kirshner, for coming. I want to thank members of the Township Council, Mayor Dr. James Dunleavy, Councilman Javon Romney Rice, our council liaison to the Youth Advisory Board, and Councilman Keith Kaplan. I want to thank Dr. Christopher Irving, Superintendent of the TNEC Board of Education, the TNEC Public Schools, and TNEC Board of Education members Danielle G., Sebastian Rodriguez, Victoria Fisher, and Harold Clark for all joining us. In addition, I want to thank the Youth Advisory Board advisors, Mr. Harley, Mr. Lewis, and Mr. G for joining us. I want to thank everyone in the audience who was listening live and who will be listening to this recording going forward. And again, I want to thank a special shout out to the clerk, Mr. Roussillon, for all the help for the past 4 months working on this event. I really, really appreciate it. And he's been a tremendous asset to us at the Youth Advisory Board in the past couple of months. And I want to just once again thank everyone for joining us and look forward to an amazing event. Thank you. I think now we're going to turn it over to Councilwoman Rice.
Yes, thank you, Ben. And leave it to our youth to bring two governing bodies together, our Board of Education, our fire, police, and our township here today on a Sunday, rainy afternoon, but what better place to be. And the advantage of Zoom is that we can all be from the comforts of our home. So that's a beautiful thing. So I really appreciate all of the adults that are here to take your time out to join with our youth. And I look forward to spending this time because our youth are our future. And we want to make sure that you continue to find your voice and how important it is that you have an opportunity to improve where you live. As noted by Mr. G in our history here, this organization, the Youth Advisory Board, was founded over 31 years ago. And just yesterday, the Philip Pinnell Foundation celebrated his life at Bernard Brooks Park. So here we are coming full circle, having this opportunity today. I was just actually looking through some pictures of our youth that have come through the ranks of YAB over the years. And I was thinking we should have a reunion because some great students, some who still live in our community, some perhaps not, but just how over the years that they have been able to find their voice and increase ways to be involved in our local community. And I would hope that today you find even more ways to find that this is your community. We here work for you. Your tax dollars, the tax dollars of your parents, pays for many of the services here in our community. And it's so important because civics is the study of the rights and duties of citizens and how government works. And today more than ever, it's so important to know your rights and the duties of our citizenship and having your voice and making sure your voice is heard. And we're here to listen. So thanks. Without further ado, I think now we are moving on to our township clerk and duties.
Good evening, everybody. Happy Sunday. Once again, thank everybody for being here. All of our participants who are speaking, thank you for your patience as we got this program together. Ben, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to work with the Youth Advisory Board all the time. I love building the bridges. And again, this is going to be a great event, despite whether we're in person or not. So as many people have just explained, my name is Doug Roussillon. I am your township clerk. I was your acting clerk up until this past January because I was in the process of getting my RMC certification, which is required by the state of New Jersey in order to be a municipal clerk here. And last time we did this event back in, I guess it was 2019, like Mr. Fox was saying, I was pursuing that certificate. So anyone who was holding me accountable, I'd like you to know I did finish the exam and I passed and now am your municipal clerk. The municipal clerk has many different duties in a municipality, as many of our departments do. However, what is cool about my position is that I get to see a little bit of each piece of our local government in action, whether it's from projects, seeing them through, awarding contracts, working with our elected officials, elections, events, working with the community. I touch a little bit of every part of the township, and that's what makes it really cool. I see everything, a 360 view, bird's eye view. One of my main duties here at the municipality is I'm the secretary to the governing body of your municipality. In this case, that is our township council, our mayor, our 2 deputy mayors, and the rest of our council members. I am in charge of facilitating the meetings, keeping the minutes, putting together the agendas. And since quarantine began with our COVID-19, I then had to get everybody on Zoom, which was certainly an interesting experience, running the Zoom meetings, making sure that people had a way to participate from the public and making sure our council members were all set up behind the computer screen. It was quite the endeavor, interesting to say the least, but we're making it work, as you can all see right now. Another very interesting part of my job is that I'm the chief administrator of all elections that take place in the municipality. Our municipality is a little different because we're so large. Much of our Board of Education's elections are handled through the Board of Education Secretary Office. I do, however, need to keep track of those results, certify those results, along with everything else that goes up to election in our township. We're also a very special municipality, one of the few in the state of New Jersey that still has a nonpartisan township. What that means, if people don't understand, is that none of our council members run on a party line. There are no Democrats or Republicans in our elections. It's just Dr. James Dunleavy, Mr. Kaplan, Mr. Von Romney Rice. That's how our people run. And we have our elections in May, actually. Most elections, everyone knows you have your June primary. Everyone shows up for the November general election. Teaneck, again, very special place. Our residents show up in May to vote for our governing body members, which, again, is a very interesting thing because we have to handle more elections than a lot of other municipalities. So it keeps things exciting, to say the least. Again, I mentioned contracts before. I work with every single department that our municipality has: engineering, the building department, health department, DPW, our purchasing agent, to make sure that our contracts that are being considered by our council, such as a road resurfacing, we always need to award contracts to people to help us pave our roads. And it's up to me with our other department heads to make sure that these contracts are being awarded legally, making sure that we have all the right documents in place for that awarding. And of course, I work with the council to make sure that they have the proper resolution to award that contract, and I certify that. Now then, we are giving business to a local business to hopefully do some good work in our community. Many people know that one of my main duties is Oprah requests. If you want some kind of public government record pertaining to you and your life somehow, you need to come to our office and we help you get that. Oprahs are a very, very popular thing in the township, and one of the things that our office loves the most. All kinds of different applications and licenses we handle, things as simple as closing down your street for a block party, all the way to something as a little more complex, like some big production coming into the municipality to do some kind of filming, maybe a show, ESPN, something like that. They need to come to my office to work with our other departments to make sure that they're doing things that they need to do, and we give them a permit for that. One thing that I also help with is the selling of township land. We have a land auction coming up very soon, which I will also be facilitating, working with our township attorneys on that. I work with the township manager in tandem in a very wide range of different projects. One of the things that is the most exciting about my job is that I have my hands in almost all the events that take place under the auspice of our municipality, such as this one. I help out with our Memorial Day event, our 4th of July parade, our Veterans Day events. So I get to work with the community on so many different things where I'm not just stuck in the office all day. I get to go out there and do a bunch of different things with the community. In essence, the township clerk is somewhat of a catch-all in a municipal government. I'm there to help anybody with anything that they really need. And if it's not my department, it's my job to make sure that they get to the right department. And of course, I'm accessible to anybody. Anyone has any questions, any concerns, has a good idea, please feel free to reach out. I don't want to take up too much time. I could talk about the township clerk's duties all day long, for better or for worse. And I think I will pass the mic along now. Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, to our fire chief, Mr. Jordan Zaretsky.
Thank you, Doug. Hello and good evening, everybody. I'm the fire chief in Teaneck. It's my third year in the position. And I've been joking about the fact that I finally start to feel like I understand how to do the job. As a fire chief in Teaneck, I'm an administrator primarily. So I run a large organization in the town, and my responsibilities run day to day from making sure that our membership is safe and well-trained and know what they're doing, and buying them trucks and equipment, to, at the sort of more mundane part of the side of it, making sure that we have cleaning products to clean the firehouses, and making sure that we have paper towels and toilet paper, even, just to make sure that we can do the things that people do. So I don't really want to talk a whole lot about what the fire chief does, because I see myself as a public servant and in emergency response. And public service is a really interesting career for a number of reasons. In the emergency response side of it particularly, there's something rewarding about being able to come and help people and having an immediacy of seeing the reward of your help. In other words, obviously people call the fire department in typically their worst time, and we come and we attempt to mitigate the problem as best we can. And then a lot of times we get a thank you, and there's the feeling that you get from being able to help people in that kind of circumstance is really wonderful. So one of the things that I personally always enjoyed about emergency response, and this sounds a little bit crazy, is that when you get on a scene and it's a real emergency, the scene is somewhat chaotic. And so from a personal point of view, I've always liked the chaos that occurs when you arrive at that scene. And you sort of have to keep a clear-headedness and a thought process in your mind, where you have to sort of work right through the chaos and help to bring some closure and again, mitigation of the problem. And to me, that first 5 or 10 minutes in an emergency scene is the most interesting part of what I've always done. The nice thing about working in a place like Teaneck, as opposed to a smaller or larger organization or municipality, is that I feel like in Teaneck, especially in the fire department, I've been able to create my job to some extent. So over time, I served as the safety and training officer. And one of the things we did a couple of years ago is that was when we were actually looking at a different pandemic potential, was Ebola. And I remember looking at Ebola as an illness and thinking, God, this is terrifying. I mean, because we were talking in some of those meetings about not if it happened, but when it happened. And so I thought, well, how do we solve this problem? And then I realized, well, you put a bunch of professionals in a room and you build systems and you talk about ways that you're going to deal with the problem if and when it does eventually cross your border. And we did some really interesting stuff there, where we came up with procedures and policies, and we bought some equipment that was actually, we didn't need it for Ebola, thank goodness, but we did actually use it, and we were functionally useful with some of those procedures and policies that we had in place when eventually COVID struck. So that's been a great part of working in a smaller or in a municipality the size of Teaneck, as opposed to like a New York City or a big city where I wouldn't have had the privilege to work in such a broad way. I said, this is what we got to kind of focus on. And years later, we saw some benefit of it. So that's one of the things, those are the things that I've appreciated about working here. That's all I got, really. Who's next? Kirshner?
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Yes, next up we have Lieutenant Kirshner.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak this evening. My name is Chris Kirshner, and I am Lieutenant with the Teaneck Police Department. Just to talk a little bit about the general police department, then I'll talk about more of my responsibilities in community policing. As many are you aware of, our police department was established in 1914, some 20 years after the town was established, and it really became about because of traffic complaints and complaints of stray animals. And we still get those complaints today, some 100+ years later. We are a civil service organization. We have had 10 chiefs since the beginning. Our current chief is Chief Glenn O'Reilly. We currently have 93 officers. We're a very diverse department. We have 82 males and 11 females. We've actually been in a very unique position. We've probably seen about 25% of our department change over in the last 2 or 3 years now, with officers retiring and newer officers coming on board. Many times all you see is a police officer driving in a police car. So I want to talk about the divisions real fast. So you know there's a lot more than just an officer responding to calls. So we have 3 divisions. We have operations, which is patrol, community policing, which I'm part of, traffic bureau, which involves the crossing guards, auxiliaries. Then we have investigations, which is your detectives, your juvenile detectives, your SRO, and your SLEO 2s. Our third is our service division, which incorporates our training, our ID, our records, our accreditation, our information technology, which is our computer department, and our administrative support staff. We also have 9 dispatchers and 5 civilians. Some things you might not know is that we have 120 miles of road in Teaneck. So that's almost from here to Cape May, maybe a little bit shorter. Every year we drive about 420,000 miles a year on our patrol cars. We answer about 65,000 calls a year from people calling, requesting some type of assistance. About 8,000 of them are 911 calls. And we are also usually write about 9,000 reports. And I kind of equated that through 3 years. It's about 600,000 sheets of paper that we use in order to write reports. So we also go on, majority of our calls are medical calls. We respond to over 3,000 first aid calls last year, 1,600 alarms. We did what's called business checks, which are 16,000 checks where officers go out. They check buildings, they check parks, they check the schools to make sure everything's okay. And in this climate, we had about 160 social distancing complaints that we responded to through the year. So what exactly do we do in community policing? Our main things are we do major special events. We handle basically the face of the department, such as social media, Facebook, Twitter, Nixle, Instagram. We plan and organize National Night Out, Junior Police Academy we run, and we're involved with the Cedar Lane Memorial Day event. We do a lot of in-house training for officers with CPR, culture diversity, tourniquet training, Narcan training, a lot of community education we're involved with. We do security assessments, active shooter preparedness, emergency preparedness. We go out, we talk to kids about pedestrian safety, how to walk safely in the schools, bike rodeos where we go through bicycle safety. We talk about alcohol awareness, which is those fatal vision goggles. If you've ever tried them on, we have demonstrations for those. We also do a car fit for seniors, where we go and we make sure that senior citizens still can operate their vehicles safely. They're sitting close enough. Their mirrors are correctly positioned. We do a lot of fraud lectures. We also do a lot of community outreach in normal times. We do building tours. We do ride-alongs involved with crime prevention, Block Watch Association, career days, recruitment, a lot of health fairs and other community events.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I believe next up is none other than our township manager, Mr. Dean Kaczynski. You're muted there, Dean. That's the catchphrase of the last year.
Okay, you hear me, Doug?
Loud and clear.
All right, good. Now, I just thank you, Chief Zaretsky, Lieutenant Kirshner, Clerk Roussillon, and the entire YAB team. It's certainly an honor and privilege to serve the residents of Teaneck as your municipal manager. I've been here now with the town 38 years, born and raised here through the school systems here, played many different sports. It was always rewarding to beat Hackensack. I know Harold's going to have an issue with that, but it was always Hackensack, of course, our biggest rivals. But the several years we played Hackensack in the Thanksgiving Day game. We did beat them. So no matter what your record was, of course, if you beat Hackensack on Thanksgiving Day, that's what it was all about. So, but again, it's an honor and privilege to serve the residents of Teaneck. It's, again, a tremendous responsibility to keep this town safe and to give the residents the excellent services that that they deserve. And this is a team effort. This is not just me driving the ship. It's a team effort with council, our workforce, and the residents themselves. As everyone knows, this has been a very trying year. Probably our biggest challenge with the coronavirus, with the tropical storm, the early snowstorm, the elections that took place. So again, this is probably one of our most trying years, but we got through it. We'll continue to get through it. There's still going to be some challenges along the way with the current COVID crisis. As everyone knows, we have the point of distribution at the Richard Rhoda Center. I'm very proud to say we've vaccinated, well over 100,000 people and probably more than 25,000 this week alone. And this is just a reminder to everyone, and I'm sure the mayor will emphasize this as well when he gets the opportunity to speak. Continue to mask up, continue to follow good hygiene practices. I encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Again, we're doing as many people as we can at the point of distribution. I intend to run that with Holy Name throughout the summer until every arm is vaccinated, so to speak. So again, that's just my reminder for everyone to continue to stay healthy, safe, and follow best practices for the prevention of the spread of the coronavirus. I'm also happy to report that Teaneck was again voted one of the best places to live in Bergen County, according to Nisha's 2020 Best Places to Live. Teaneck received an overall A rating, and we're considered one of the most diverse suburbs in the state and one of the most diverse places to live in this state. And we're considered the 20th best in Bergen County and 78th overall in the state of New Jersey. Some of the factors include schools, the crime rates, housing trends, employment statistics, and access to amenities here in town. So we're very proud of that. New Jersey, of course, is the 11th most populous in the United States with over 8.8 million residents. The median home value in Teaneck right now is at $387,405, which is basically double the national average. Our municipal budget, and this is not one of the quiz questions, but the municipal budget for 2020 is currently at $72,695,655. A little bit about Teaneck. Teaneck utilizes the Faulkner Act council manager form of government where the manager is considered the chief executive officer. The council appoints the municipal manager and can remove me at any council meeting with 4 affirmative votes. And that's a good incentive for me to make sure I'm doing my job and the business of the town is running relatively smoothly. The manager, I prepare the budget. I appoint and remove department heads. I attend council meetings, but I do not have a vote. The town council, and I'm sure Mayor Dunleavy, Councilman Kaplan, and Councilwoman Javon Romney Rice will go over a little bit of the duties of council. But the council sets the policies and the passing of ordinances. It adopts its annual budget and approves contracts and agreements for services. The council appoints my position as manager, the clerk, the auditor, the township attorney, our judges, and the township tax assessor. The council appoints 7 members of the planning board, the board of adjustment, and all other statutory and advisory boards. Some of my additional duties include, as I mentioned, I compile and submit to council the tentative annual budget pursuant to law, execute all laws and ordinances of the township and the state of New Jersey, appoint and remove the deputy manager and all department heads and other officers, subordinates and assistants whose selection or removal is provided in the charter of the township. I supervise and control all appointees and report all appointments or removals to council. I review all the existing job classifications and salary ranges of all employees and present recommendations for additions, changes, or modifications to council. I negotiate, and this is one of the most challenging to me, you negotiate contracts for the township subject to council approval. This includes the 8 collective bargaining agreements in town. So we have 8 different unions. There's 2 at the police department, 2 at the fire department, 2 at public works, the library, and the AFSCME union. So we negotiate, or I negotiate, the contracts for them. I've sat on the other side of the table. So again, I understand from the union end, and I certainly understand from the administrative end how challenging it is to settle these contracts, but we generally get them done. We have not been to arbitration for many years, which is a very positive thing for the township. I have to report to council any violations of the terms and conditions of any statutes. As I mentioned, I attend all council meetings, but I participate in discussions. However, I do not have the right to vote. I have to keep the council advised of the financial condition of the township. I make an annual report to the town to include a detailed list of major capital improvements considered by the manager to be necessary or desirable during a 5-year period. One of the things that we do every year, of course, is road resurfacing. That's covered under a capital expenditure. Anything under capital has to have a prolonged life of 5 or more years. But road resurfacing is really the most common. We usually budget every year in capital, usually a little bit over $2 million this year. We'll be doing and resurfacing about 32 streets this year, which is very good. The last several years I've been trying to keep capital under $5 million, and we've been successful with that while accomplishing a lot of infrastructure improvements. I must ensure that no contract is made or improvement is undertaken until the necessary funds have been appropriated in our budget, and those funds are certified by our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Issa Abbasi. I have to consult with and work together with council and the planning board to maintain the master plan of the township and establishing plans for the future developments of the township. I have to investigate at any time the affairs of any officer or department of the township. That's one of my responsibilities. I also look at the organizational structure, duties, plans, table of organizations, and make any changes that are deemed necessary. And I develop, update, and submit to council for its approval. Employment policies not covered by collective bargaining agreements. We have a township policy, and we are due for an update on this. We try to update it every couple of years. I'm working with the township attorney right now. And again, the policy manual is given to every employee of the township, and that goes hand in hand with their collective bargaining agreement as well. So we have a strict set of policies for every employee. They're given a copy of that during the onboarding, and they're occasionally given that updated policy manual, or they're given a policy manual whenever it's updated. There are other forms of government which utilize a business administrator instead of a manager. In these cases, again, this is not in TNEC's case, the mayor and council have more responsibility in the day-to-day decision-making. So TNEC, again, is a Faulkner Act council manager form of government where I'm the CEO of the town. In a majority of other municipalities throughout the state, the mayor and council have more responsibility in that day-to-day decision-making, but that does not generally happen here in TNEC. The township's form of local government, again, is used by 27% of New Jersey municipalities. Everyone else has that mayor council form of government rather than the township manager form of government. We're bordered by 8 different municipalities. They include Bergenfield, Bogota, Angwood, Hackensack, Leonia, New Milford, Richfield Park, and River Edge. A little bit about the budget just quickly. The process is my department heads. We have 13 of them. They submit their budget to me in September. We generally notify them sometime in August of the current year to start preparing their department budgets. They submit them to me in September. I review them with our Chief Financial Officer. We have department public budget meetings. They take place in November. The public is welcome to sit and listen as the department heads present their budget to me as the manager. Then I meet with our CFO and our budget subcommittee, which is generally 3 council members, to review the proposed budget. I submit my budget to council generally in January or February. The times have changed and shifted a little bit due to the COVID crisis. I have to prepare an annual debt statement, and that's due to the state of New Jersey by January 30th. We also have to submit our annual financial statement to the state. That's generally due by February 10th. I present my budget to council, and that's generally done in February or the beginning of March of every year. We have budget hearings. They follow shortly thereafter. We generally have 2 to 3 budget hearings, public budget hearings where the public is able to participate in that process as well. Council generally introduces the budget sometime in the latter end of March, and then we adopt our budget in April. Currently, we have a workforce of about 300 full-time employees, and generally during the summer, we have 300 seasonal staff. And TNEC is a civil service community, meaning the majority of our positions fall under civil service. They require a test to be given, and that applies to police, fire, promotional examinations, and a few other positions here at the municipal building. So most of the positions fall under civil service, and there is a testing process for that. As I mentioned, we have 13 departments. They include the tax assessor, the building department, the clerk, our chief financial officer, the court, public works, engineering, fire, health, human resources, the library, which is autonomous, has its own board of trustees, the police department, fire department, purchasing, and recreation. So 13 departments, again, a very busy municipality. And again, I serve, it's an honor and privilege to serve the public. And I'm accessible, 201-837-1600, extension 1001, anytime during the day. My email address is my first initial last name, dkaczynski@tnecnj.gov. And I welcome, once we do open our doors to the public again, I welcome anyone to come up to my office, chat, and any questions, problems, certainly email them to me, and I'll do my best making that problem go away. So again, it's I thank YAB for this opportunity, and Doug, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dean, for all that very important information. Our township manager does a whole lot in TNEC. Township managers everywhere do a whole lot, but especially in TNEC, Dean does a whole lot. But Dean, actually, before we move forward with our agenda, I believe right now is the time for our famous TNEC trivia. So if you have a few questions that you want to ask our attendees, feel free. I put something in the chat box for everyone to observe that we'll be accepting answers to Dean's Manager Kaczynski's TNEC trivia through chat and the Q&A. So once he asks a question, feel free to answer via chat or Q&A. And one of our youth advisory board members will be keeping track of who gets questions properly. Is that correct, Mr. G, Mr. Lewis?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Right, and again, Mr. G, let me know who the recipients are. I have official township mouse pads and municipal buttons I can send out. And if you give me that information to the people that respond correctly, we have plenty of mouse pads, plenty of buttons, and I'll get them out via mail as quickly as possible. So let me know during the week who they should be sent out to. So I just have probably about 5 or 6, and I know this has been brought up a couple times. When was TNEC incorporated? We had our, I don't want to tip it off, but we recently had our 125th anniversary. So I am tipping it off a little bit. And so if you can provide the exact date, that would be one of the questions.
If someone's good at mental math, now is the time to shine.
Yes.
I see one of our attendees, Akiva, answered with a very direct date. Do you guys want me to read this out, Youth Advisory Board advisors, or?
Yeah, you can read it out, Doug. That's fine.
So Akiva answered February 19th, 1895. I know the year, I do not know the exact date. So someone might be in a better position than I am.
Keith, do you have a date for us?
Well,
Fact check.
it's a little difficult for the date of incorporation. Do you want when the election was held?
Well, I'll tell you what I was looking for if we're done with all the answers.
Please.
February 19th, 1895.
Nail on the head, Akiva.
Hey,
Some answers are coming in. They come in, and I assume that our advisors, you can see those answers, and you're keeping track of them, correct? Awesome, good.
All right. Second question: how many municipalities in the state of New Jersey?
Ooh, that's a rough one. It's a whole lot. Might be too many.
Can you fit the number in the chat box?
Yeah. Akiva, quick on the keyboard. She's saying 565 municipalities. Trey
That is
came in right
correct.
after her saying
That
the
is
same
correct.
thing. Correct.
All right. If you have Siri, now's the time to use it.
Yeah.
How many counties in the state of New Jersey?
Someone answered 71. Someone answered 21. Trey answered 21. 71 or 21.
21 is the correct answer.
Akiva and Trey. Trey
All right.
and Akiva answered 21. Wow. I didn't know that.
Teaneck is the first, second, third, or fourth most populous municipality in Bergen County. First, second, third, or fourth most populous in Bergen County.
A bunch of people put 2. Yeah, a bunch of people put second.
All right. Two is the correct answer.
Number 1 being Hackensack, I think.
Correct.
right.
But couldn't beat us on the field. Maybe has more people than us, but couldn't beat us on the
All
field.
right. One or two more. How often does Teaneck hold municipal elections for the position of council? So how often does Teaneck hold municipal elections for the position of council?
Panelists, feel free to jump in on these questions as well. I see Councilman
been
Rice
banned.
said 3. There's a bit of a
No,
cheat code there.
That's my son, so I'm not
okay.
participating.
Typo.
He should know too.
We have any correct answers, Doug?
I see Miss Danielle G put every 2 years. Akiva said the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, council elections are held every other year for 4-year staggered terms. So whoever came closest to that.
Well done.
And the last question I'll do, how is the position of mayor appointed in Teaneck? How is the position of mayor appointed in Teaneck?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Hmm.
Danielle says by majority vote of council. Miss Vega says through board members, ? Akiva says council.
Okay, yes, appointed by his or her peers on council during a reorganization meeting, which is held on July 1st every other year. And let me do one more, and I know no one's going to get this exactly, but the population of Teaneck as of 2017, this is before, I don't have the new census data, but as of 2017, the population of Teaneck.
Miss Vegas says 40K. Well, I'm getting a lot of answers really quick.
Well, yeah, Ben has it 41,311. That was as of 2017.
Our responses were off the charts for a second there.
Yeah. All right. So that's,
Shall I throw a question in there for you, Dean?
Sure, absolutely.
According to the decennial census, what decade had the most residents in Teaneck ever registered?
Victoria Fisher says 1940s. That's a definitive answer.
Oh, yeah.
Miss G says 1980s. Rice says 1930s. Mr. G says 1960. The 1960s. I have no idea. I'm not even going to try. Akiva says the 2010s. Mr. Rodriguez says 1950s. Trey also with the 2010s. Victoria Fisher, Price is Right, 1700s.
I had a feeling this would be a good one. So, you ready for the answer?
Yeah, go.
The answer is between the 60s and 70s. So 1970 would have been the answer for the census, was the highest recorded number for Teaneck. I believe it was a little shy of 43,000 by memory.
Wow. Good time. I believe that concludes our trivia, our Teaneck
That's it,
trivia.
Doug. That's a wrap.
Thank you, Manager Kaczynski. Thank you, Councilman Kaplan. Always with another good question, our fact checker. Akiva says all good streaks come to an end. We will also be taking some questions later on at the end of our event. I believe next up, we are going to be passing along to our Township Council. First off, why don't we have our Mayor, Dr. James Dunleavy.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for having us here. I think you've heard just about everything in terms of structure and function and whatever. As you just heard, the mayor, our form of government is kind of a unique one in that the mayor is not selected by the residents of the town, but rather by the council members at our reorg meeting that happens every 2 years. That gives the current sitting council, who will be sitting there for the next 2 years, an opportunity to pick that leader. And I'm honored at this point to have been selected by my peers for these 2 years. In terms of my structure, my role, it sometimes is confusing for people, because obviously when they hear the term mayor, they hear that or they think that that's the person that runs everything or does everything. Well, that would be a big problem for me, and I think for most of my council members, because we all have full-time jobs. We are citizen servants of Teaneck, and so we have decided to serve the town in this role because we feel it's important to do that, and it's part of our responsibility as a citizen, not only of Teaneck but of this country, to serve the rest of our community. So we have chosen to do it that way. So my main role is really to run the meetings. I serve as the chair. I have to keep us moving along and keeping the business moving along, making sure that we adhere to people's rights for dissent, people's rights, especially the minority opinion on any issue, and also be sure that we take appropriate votes and we give appropriate voice to everyone who wants to speak with respect to any issues that come before the council. So that's my main role. In my role as mayor, I'm also involved in other aspects. I also serve as a liaison to several advisory boards, as does most of my council colleagues. So it's not just the council meeting. We're working on issues in between the meetings. We are attending those advisory board meetings. And I just want to take a moment to explain the advisory board structure to everybody. We have a number of advisory boards. I won't go into the number and the specifics. I'm responsible as the liaison to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, the Municipal Open Space Trust Board, and the Pride Advisory Board. And so I attend all those meetings, and my council members attend their assigned meetings as well. Those groups have the opportunity, like the Youth Advisory Board, to make recommendations to the council. These advisory boards are not separate entities that can go and do kind of whatever they want. They have to do their work within the confines of council approval. So it's a little bit different than with some of our statutory boards, like say Planning Board or Board of Adjustment, which does by statute have the opportunity to make decisions somewhat independent of the council, and take on those activities within the framework of planning and zoning adjustment and things like that. But in the end, the council is the body that passes the laws or ordinances, local laws, for the township of Teaneck. And so if you look at the website and you go to the code, it's called the code, and I believe it's on a little marker on the left-hand side of the first page of our website, you'll be able to look at just about not just about, you will look at every single local law or ordinance that is currently on the books for the township of Teaneck. And it's just recently been completely updated, so that we hope that going forward, we will keep it updated so what we have there is relevant. And these are the laws under which we run the town. In addition, we have state laws that we have to adhere to. There are other state regulations that we have to adhere to, and we have to run the town accordingly. And I bring that up because sometimes we have to make some decisions that make some people sometimes scratch their head. But the issue is maybe not so much we making the decisions we make, but that it had to be made in a certain way at a certain time in order to meet adherence to a local law or a state law or a regulation. So we try to explain that whenever that happens, but that is part of the job of being a council member and a mayor. So in terms of my role, other than that, that position of running the meetings, I have the same authority as every other council member. With the only major exception is that I have to sign all the documents for the township in terms of many contractual arrangements. I have to sign with the manager, other financial documents I have to sign, things like that. So usually after each council meeting, I'm usually getting a text from our clerk saying, can you stop by? And there's about 17 or 18 papers that I have to sign just based on the work from the previous meeting. But I want to emphasize to you that we're serving the township. We're residents of the township. And it's very important for all of you to understand the importance of service, whether it be community service, other forms of social service, but it's also important for you at some point in time as you grow and learn that it's important too to step up and take roles such as this so that the place that you live in is a good and a better place to live, because people are going to have to come after us and run the town. So I would hope that programs like this spur the opportunity for people to think about just exactly what their role can be in the future. And believe me, I never thought in a million years that I would become mayor of the second largest town in Bergen County. I just didn't. But I thought that I had skills and ideas that would lend itself to something positive for the town. And that's why I ran. And I'm happy that the town saw that in me and elected me. And then, as I say, that my peers selected me to be your mayor for this coming 2 years. So I think at that point, I will turn it over. Who is next? Is it you, Councilmember Rice, on the list there?
Sure, I'll go next because I'll leave time for my colleague, Keith, because I have spoken already, but I just wanted to add something important that you mentioned, as well as Chief Zaveski, is that we are public servants. Most importantly, even though we are elected, yes, we are government officials, but most importantly, I see our roles as public servants, meaning that we serve you, the community. Also, I want to just mention and give a plug. There was discussed that our police, fire, other opportunities are civil service opportunities. So meaning that there's a civil service exam. And what better way to continue to live and work in your own community by taking advantage of these great opportunities. And I really would love for us to pursue a further collaboration with our superintendent, with our public schools and our private schools to really provide a greater pipeline for those civil service opportunities, so that as is required to be a resident of our community, it provides a better opportunity for you to live and work right here in Teaneck. So just wanted to give a plug for those civil service opportunities. And as you can hear as mentioned, Teaneck takes a lot of pride in its community. We, even the rivalry of those formerly from Hackensack, we know that Teaneck is a wonderful place to live and work, and we really take pride in then wanting to serve, not only just live here, but to serve here. But serving here, we still pay taxes just like everyone else. And I feel that it's so important to know that when we try to make sure that we do equitable service, making sure that our police and fire, that all of our residents are served properly, how important it is to make sure that we don't shortcut you, the residents, and make sure that we provide for all the services of this great community that we enjoy. And our mayor already mentioned the advisory boards, how you can get involved. So yes, we even have some youth involved in some of our advisory boards, which you can find out them all on the teanecknj.gov website, so that you can find, hopefully, whether it's through the advisory boards, if you're interested in the environment. Some of the other boards that I serve on are the Hackensack River Greenway, which is actually in the midst. Earth Day is coming up and doing a lot of cleanups along the riverway. Those are opportunities to get engaged in addition to community relations. So with our 41,000 residents here, I think it's so important that we as elected officials don't assert our own agendas, but to be ensured that we voice your concerns and ensure equitable access for all residents. Yes, all 41,000, whether they're vocal, whether they come to council meetings or not, but to make sure that they feel that they are represented by the people that are elected to serve them. So I just wanted to point out those additional pieces about our form of government and why we're here to serve, and then pass it over to my colleague, Keith Kaplan.
Thanks so much, Councilmember Rice. So, like Chief Zaretsky, I'm also in my third year here on council. I was elected to my first term in 2018, along with the mayor. And it's true what he said. It takes several years to really feel comfortable in the role. And I think, especially for youth, there's an important life lesson there as you try new things. Don't necessarily shortchange yourself. There's going to be a adjustment period as you go into these roles. Prior to being on council, I volunteered. I was on the town's planning board for the better part of a decade. I also volunteered at the PPRAB, the Parks, Playground, Recreation Advisory Board, as the mayor mentioned, advising council on ways that we can improve various aspects of the town. One of the best things I like about local government is the ratio of the representatives to those we represent. You try to reach out to, the president of the United States, you're not going to get very far. You try reaching out to your senators or, Congressman Gottheimer. I mean, you might be able to break through, but when we go and do things here, they affect you. And, you go to the soccer fields, the football fields, and you play on those grounds. The rules that we put in place are, shaping how those parks that you use are created. When you use amenities or, even to a certain extent, just driving on the roads, these are things that really affect you. And like the manager said, our emails are all on the website. Mine is kkaplan@teanecknj.gov. We love hearing from you. Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat as well. One of the things that, is most important to me when I do this is getting a sense of the historical aspects of what we've done in the township. I love history. I think one of the best ways we could succeed is knowing how things have been done in the past, partly because people have screwed up in a phenomenal number of ways. And, seeing how they mess up ahead of time can help you sidestep a lot of those mistakes and give you ideas to grow on. So if you have any kinds of issues that you have that you want us to work on, one of the things that I'll promise you is that I'll look up, the things that have been done about it in the past. We try to get a sense of, what's been tried, what might not work, work with people to come up with better ideas, and then we try to go and implement them. And civic engagement is hard in the best of times. I don't think anybody who got into this kind of a job 2 years ago thought that global pandemic and recreating the gym in our recreation center for a vaccination pod would have been, something on the agenda. But, life throws you curveballs, and we really do try to work with you. So if you have any questions, you have any ideas, you have anything, come at us. We work for you, and not just because you'll be the ones voting in a couple of years and deciding who sits in these seats, but, part of that's true. But we really are your representatives, and what we do affects you, and you should really have a voice in that. So we are here. I'm happy to discuss, how we do things, what differences between resolutions and ordinances and various other stuff. But come at us and bring us the issues that you have, and we'll take care of it.
Thank you, Councilman. Next up, we have Dr. Christopher Irving.
Perfect timing, because I just changed my 1-year-old, so you guys have impeccable timing. I heard my name, I was like, so good afternoon, everybody. Hello, my name is Dr. Christopher Irving. I'm a superintendent of schools in the township of Teaneck. There are 3 board members, I believe, on this evening. It's not 4, for that matter. So I'm going to talk very briefly, and I'll leave it to the elected officials to do the talking for me. I'll just give you all a very high-level overview of just the role of the superintendent of schools and what we do. By statute, every school district in those municipalities that you all just mentioned, a little while ago in your trivia, have school districts. And whether you're a public school district or a charter school district, by code, you must have a chief school administrator and a business administrator. And so in New Jersey, our CSA, as we are known by other monikers, are also known as superintendents of schools. That individual serves as the CEO or the person in charge of the school system. The superintendent of schools is normally appointed by the locally elected Board of Education. And again, we are fortunate to have 9 board members who are elected every year on a rotating basis. 3 are up and rotating. And again, our board members will talk and share with you all about that process. But I am, selected, based on an interview process. And then pending a review of the board, my contract is reappointed annually for the life cycle of whatever contract I am in. When I was hired here in Teaneck, I received a 3-year contract. After 2 years, the board decided to extend my work here in Teaneck to extend my contract to 5 years. And so again, I work for the Board of Education. All the other 600 to 700 employees in the district work for me and the work that I do. I am very fortunate, I believe, to work in this township. I think Teaneck is an amazing place to not just work, but also, just to, be immersed in. I'd be remiss if I didn't say at the time of my selection, I was and still am the only African-American superintendent in Bergen and Passaic County. I was the youngest superintendent, at that point in time. I think I still am, for that matter. But I think it speaks to this board and their willingness to really push the boundaries relative to education. In the time that I've been in Teaneck, we have been able to see a lot of changes in our district, academic and structural, but also social and cultural too. And I'm really excited about that. I love what I do, and I love what I do for this township and the people who serve it, because in my opinion, There is nothing else anyone can do in life in which you talk about legacy and work and seeing the proof of your work, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years later. And the proof of our work is our students. It's seeing staff come back, or people who become staff come back, who were former students who say, I want to work in the town where I grew up. It's seeing elected board members who serve on the board, who talk about their perspective as students and now as parents. But it's also seeing other community members who just want to be involved and engage in the educational process. And so my job is to ensure that every single student in our school district receives a thorough and efficient education. That is not easy. Because as you will probably imagine, we have more than 3,500 students, close to between 35 and 4,000 students. When you take into account students in our special needs programs, in our programs out of district as well. But every single student is individual, and we have to treat every single student with that sense of individuality while still trying to deliver a sense of equity when it comes to education and educational access in our district. And so I'm fortunate that I have 9 board members who listen to my crazy ideas. And when I say, hey, I think we should do this, they certainly do not make it easy by any stretch of the imagination. The township manager and I, I would say we have good conversation with each other when we are discussing our municipal or elected bodies, for that matter. So, the township manager is my brother in arms, especially around the budget time. And ever since COVID, the township manager and I've been meeting every Monday, probably for the last 6 or 7 months. And we talk about all things COVID and TNEC for that matter. But our collaboration between the Board of Education and the township is so critical. We have several shared services agreements, meaning that the school district pretty much hooks up the township hooks up the school district through a partnership together. And we're really excited about that. We're looking forward to hopefully expanding those partnerships as we move forward. But the greatest piece that I have, is to ensure that our educational programs are of quality and that we are pushing the boundaries relative to educational access for our students. And that means at times myself being uncomfortable relative to those boundaries. That means at times making the Board of Education uncomfortable with those boundaries. As a mentor told me years ago, no one ever died from discomfort. And so sometimes, we have to be able to do things a little differently in an effort to not just get, results, but we want good results. We want great results of our students. And we have amazing students in this township. We have amazing students who are in our pre-K program all the way up to grade 12. And my job is to make sure that diploma that they receive when they graduate from TNEC High, every single year is worth more and more on that piece of paper. And so it's a humbling job to have because I am literally shaping the life and the minds of our future generation. And I don't take that shortly at all or lightly at all. It is something that weighs on me, immensely. But it is something that I absolutely revel in as well, because I know the team that we have put together in our district and the Board of Education who helped to support me absolutely cares for every single child in this district, as if these children were theirs. And I think that is the lens and the purview that if you're going to do this work, you have to. And so at times I'm accused of taking this work personally, as we move forward. And I do take it personally because this is personal work. And so we have to be able to work together and collaboratively moving forward. And my little boss just walked in the room, so that's probably my cue to shut up now. So I am going to turn it over, to you all. I think the board members are next.
Yeah. Hi,
Thank you,
thank you,
Dr.
Dr. Irving. I'm next.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet this afternoon and speak with you. I remember many years ago when Ms. Barker restarted the Youth Advisory Board. She asked me if I wanted to participate as a school board liaison to the Youth Advisory Board, and I immediately say yes. And over the years, I have been either served as a liaison to the school board and the Youth Advisory Board, and or come to this type of meetings almost every year. So it's always a pleasure to see young people who are interested in becoming more involved in their town. And like many of our elected officials said prior to me speaking now, Teaneck is unique. Teaneck is unique because it's in one of the most diverse towns in New Jersey. It's a town that wants excellence. Do not like people to get comfortable in their jobs, and they're going to continue to push hard so people continue to do the job good, right? So it is a challenge. I remember being elected to the school board in 2007, and since then I have served now 13 years in a row. My last term will be in 2022, and this present year I became board president, similar to the mayor. It was not elected by the public, but selected among my own peers, meaning board members selected me to become their president. I am humbled and appreciate the fact they saw me as the person to lead the board. As a board member, we have many responsibilities, and I'm just going to touch on about possibly the three most important one. One being developing policy to make sure the school district is runs fine. The person responsible then for making sure those policies are implemented properly is the superintendent, but the board basically create policy, right? The second thing that we do, this is also very important, is to hire a superintendent. Like Dr. Irving said, by law, there needs to be a chief executive officer or education officer, and that is a superintendent, and we are required to have one, and we hire this person. And the third important task that the board has is to pass a balanced budget. As you know, education is, even though it's free, it's public education, it's not free. It's something that costs us about $95 million a year and going up every year. And, we rely on about 90% of the budget is based on taxes. So obviously, people have a lot to say, whether you are a parent or somebody who does not send a parent of a public school children, or a parent who do not send their children to public school, right? Everyone has a stake in it because everyone contributes towards the budget of a public education. As a board president, my role is not any different than the mayor in a way. As a president, I do not have any more power than the other 8 board members. There are some responsibilities that I have that the rest of the board do not have, but it's nothing really to shout about. They're important, for example, making sure setting the agenda, meeting with the superintendent to make sure, the agenda items on the agenda appear, making sure that issues that come to board meetings are being addressed properly, making sure that committees are set up, and then I appoint different members to the committees. But in terms of voting, my vote is as good as the other 8 board members. I don't have more power per se than the other members. And the interesting thing of being on the board for the last 13 years is my ability to be able to work, have been able to work with a number of people. Just looking at the numbers, I think I have served with worked with about 35 different board members, 6 superintendents, and 6 board presidents. So when you talk about the dynamics of working with different people who have different ideas and suggestions and ways of seeing things different than you are, makes it very interesting. And I think all that combined with the ever-changing needs and requests and opportunities for to improve education and the many challenges the students and their families bring all the time. When I first moved to Teaneck 20 years ago, I think about maybe less than 10% of the student population was Latino. Now, forward 20 years later, and I believe the school population, if I'm not wrong, is probably majority right now, Latino population of public school children in the district. So although demographic changes and all those changes that occur in a community, education cannot, and people who are involved in education cannot just sit behind and watch those changes go by. they need to be innovative. They need to, push the envelope like that Irving said, and make sure that, as the community grows and changes, that, your policies, your decisions, and everything you do, is there to support the needs of those students and their families. What else? There are 3 other board members there. I don't want to take their time. We are going to, we have different perspectives about what being a board member means. But to me, it has always meant, again, being supportive of public education, which I'm a strong supporter of public education. I think the foundation of this country, that's one of the tenets of this country, public education, and it needs to be supported. It needs to be rewarded, and we need to make sure that we support our students and families and staff, because without public education, there's really no democracy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Which Board of Education member would like to go first? I know we want to save some time for some questions. Please keep that in mind.
We'll do it in order, if you don't mind. I'll pass it on to Mr. Clark.
You got it.
Thank you. I appreciate YAB having me here, and I won't take up too much time, but I was being very fortunate to have worked in this system, worked for the police department here for 25 years. Actually, Dean was my lieutenant, my sergeant, my captain. We worked together closely for a long time. Chris Kirsch and I worked with very closely. We actually shared office together in the department. And throughout the time of being here, both my kids went through the school system here. My brother's kids went through the school system here. So I've been involved with TNEC for probably close to 40 years, been living here 30 years. And I thought I'd never get to the position of being on the Board of Education. Just got elected, newly elected, learning the process. But I spent a lot of time in this town mentoring young people. I've coached football for 20 more years, junior football, I've coached basketball, and I've dealt with our youth for a long time, and I still mentor a large number of young men and women that I'm proud to say went on to college and doing very well for themselves. And a lot of them coming back here, a lot of them have become police officers, a lot of them are in the fire departments. And I think this is a very unique town. We looked up to TNEC when I grew up in Hackensack. The kids over here had a little bit better than we did. We always looked up to it, but I never thought in a million years when I graduated in 1982 and we won the Thanksgiving game, out of fact, when I played for Hackensack, that I would ever move over to TNEC. We had a good rivalry. It wasn't a violent rivalry, but we had our bragging rights. And that's what makes this community great. The diversity here is absolutely fantastic. Once I moved here, I knew I wasn't going to leave. And I was very proud that my children went to school here. And I'm very proud to be on the board and just giving back to the community. And I think that's very important that now I'm retired, I have the time to help out on a different level. And I am very happy for being here. I don't want to take any more time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'll hop in. Thank you first to YAB for hosting this event. I think it's really great. I hope we do it more often. Shout out to the youth, but also shout out to Shay and Dwayne, who've been putting in the work for years and years, and welcome Karan to the crew. I think it's a really excellent group and you guys are doing wonderful work. I'll just say real quickly my takeaways for any young person who's listening to the call today. I strongly recommend that now that you're getting some information that you volunteer to get involved in your community, whether it be at your school or whether it be the municipal government or any of the departments that Dean talked about. Come to a meeting and speak. Even if you're not sure what you have to say, listen in, you'll get 3 minutes, write down your comments, and it's always, you always have something worth saying, even if you're not sure what it is just yet. And then run for something if you can. There are always opportunities to run for office in May or in November, and there's other opportunities for appointments, so put yourself forward because your ideas are valuable. Budgets are priorities for all government entities, whether that be the school or the municipal government, and we are all in our budget making phase right now. So please come to a budget meeting, hear what we are prioritizing with our dollars, and if you agree, speak up, and if you disagree, speak louder. The next time we do this, I hope that there are even more young people. I hope that there are more women, and I hope that there are more people of color. All of our levels of government should be reflective of the community that we live in. Diversity isn't just a buzzword, it's a way of living. And I know it's why my family came to TNEC. and why I'm raising my family now in Teaneck. And I think that's a shared value of all of us, but we got to do a lot of work in building a bench for the next generation. I think this is a great first step. And if you have any questions about how to get involved, how to run, it's not that hard. I can tell you, I was a protester for a very long time before I decided I had to join the machine to change it. And it wasn't as hard as I expected. And I'm happy to help anyone else who has something to share. Thanks, guys.
And I'll keep my comments really brief because I know I'm the last one, and I'm standing here between you guys and Q&A. So quickly, I'll just share, I think yesterday marked my 100 days on the school board. So along with Harold, I'm new to the game here, but quickly I'll share some of the things that I think are unique to this position. One, I think school board members are the only elected officials that are required to receive training every year. We go through governance training because there's so many very specific rules around being a school board member. And so it's really important that we receive that training. So I think that's one really unique part of our role. The second thing I think that's really unique that I think most people don't realize is we don't have any power as individuals. We only have power as a group of 9, and we make decisions based on majority. So people always come up to me as an individual, like, can you do this or can you change that? And I always say, no, I can't do that because I'm only one person. Really, we have to make decisions as a board, and any opinion that I share is not one that represents the district. It's one that represents me as an individual board member. And then the last thing I'll say is a lot of folks always come up with questions about how to get things solved. And I think one thing that many people in the community don't realize is that we follow sort of a chain of command rule. And so if you have issues with your school, it's really important that you go to your building principal first. And then if it's not addressed there, then you go to our superintendent. And then if it's not addressed at that level, then you come to the board. I think that's really important to understand that the board does not really handle day-to-day operational issues. We really manage the sort of the policy level, long-term strategic vision of the district, but not the day-to-day. And I think oftentimes community members get confused about that. So I'll stop there. That was my 3 points that I think you all should take away if you don't already know that, that I think is really helpful for folks who aren't as familiar with how school boards run. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much to all of our participants speaking and sharing their thoughts about their positions and their experiences. Before we close it out this evening, I would like to appeal to our attendees or students. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat box or to the Q&A feature. If you want to direct it to an individual, you are free to do that. If you want to direct it to our, shall we say, panel here, you are welcome to do that also. This is your time. If you have any kinds of questions, comments, concerns, ideas, thoughts, dreams, aspirations.
Strong feelings.
Yeah.
I hope we didn't scare them away.
Yeah.
Also, if you have not sent your name and your email address in the chat, please do so I can make sure you're receiving community service credit as well as being entered into the raffle.
And Doug, just a clarification, I was not at Teaneck High School in 1982, so I will say Teaneck beat Hackensack in 79.
And for my
1999.
and for my daughters who played soccer at Teaneck High School, I have said to my youngest daughter many years, you'll always have the Hackensack game because
Why am I getting ganged up on? I've been living here 30 some odd years. I'm damn near Teaneck.
We didn't move to Hackensack. You moved to Teaneck.
Coach probably played more games against Hackensack than he did when he played in Hackensack.
I coach against Hackensack now. Or I did. Jesus, give me I get more flack in Hackensack than I do here now. It's all good. It's all good. All up.
Maybe I'll ask one question. We'll go around the room or around the screen. Each of the panelists can tell us what is either their favorite thing about Teaneck or the coolest fact that they know about Teaneck. I guess that they've learned from their position in government.
Ooh, okay. Do you want to call on people, Ben?
Sure, or you can just, anyone wants to call out. I think the screen might be different from each person.
I'll start if you want. I think that the best and the coolest is for me the same thing, and that is the people. My wife and I came here to raise our family, and TNEC hasn't disappointed. The life experiences that they receive here are second to none. They had a great education. They have lifelong friends. They're now obviously grown, but to me, it's really the people, the history, and what we can do in the future with what has been given to us. So those are the things I like. That's really neat and cool, and what I love about our town.
And actually, just before we continue, one of the attendees wanted to know also if each of the panelists could change or improve one thing about TNEC. So maybe everyone could just provide what's their favorite thing and what's one thing that they would want to change or improve at the same time.
So I'll jump into that. Having been a lifelong resident of TNEC since kindergarten, having served on both the Board of Education and the now on the town council, clearly I bleed blue. I love this community. But one of the things that I would love to change is to try to, as we just did with our recent panel discussion of Walk the Talk, we pride ourselves on the diversity, but I believe that diversity is more than just living amongst people, but really getting to know our neighbors to a greater extent. There's an expression that says, diversity is being invited to the party and inclusion is being asked to dance. So I would love to have more opportunities to dance with my community members and to learn more about our folks and learn more about the things that we have in common, because I believe, as was shared, we are probably one of the diverse communities in our state, and we can do a greater demonstration of how people can live amongst each other, and not just live side by side, but to really support and enjoy each other's company.
Can I piggyback on that? The surprising fact is that more than half of our school age students go to private schools, and what I would change about TNEC is to have more come to the public schools, because like Javon said, we don't get the full diversity of our neighborhoods if we're not at the parks together, if we're not in schools together, if we're not building together. And that's a bridge I've long been trying to build. And I think there's a lot of partners in that, but we got to find more common spaces to share ideas and perspectives.
Councilman Kaplan.
So I think the most surprising thing I learned in this job is just how much time each round of new elected representatives spends on things that have been done before. The same questions that come up, the same things that, I love history. So, when I found out we had old books in the basement, I went and got Doug to take me down there. And we have the 1895 minutes of the town council down there, right? And you open up the book and the first page, March 1895, the streets are too dark. We need new lights, for the roads. And my first meeting here on council, the residents are coming in 2018 saying our streets are too dark, we need new lights on the roads. And everything you get is something in some way, shape, or form somebody has had to deal with before. And I think that just struck me in terms of there's a saying that you might not be able to finish the task, but it doesn't mean you're free to withdraw from it. And what we're doing is trying to make things incrementally better than when we left it. And while we'll never quite be able to make it perfect, we're trying to make it a little better. And if I could change one thing, it would be to get more people involved in the process, because I think when we have more people talking to us and more people having that conversation, you get more data points and you're able to work with a whole lot more people to get more things done.
Can I?
Sure.
To me, it's almost similar, but I think one thing I learned in 20 years of being here in TNEC is the fact that the people really push you to become to support you if you really show that you're interested in becoming a public servant. I think sometimes we may not see it necessarily by the number of people who should be voting. I think we should get more people out to vote. But at the same time, I also feel those who come out to vote and who are active participants in the process, they are there to support. And I think and I hope that we, the elected officials and the adults, do a much better job at making sure that we promote opportunities for the younger generation to become involved in not only the voting process, but also with opportunities to become elected officials and to volunteer in town, because it's the best way that you become more understanding about how the town works, and then that you can then start making decisions as to when and how you would like to become more involved in town. Because and once you do that, I think you'll find out that you will get a lot of support from many people in the community. So that's important.
Okay, I want to thank the panelists for their answers. I think we're going to move now towards the closing. I think Mr. Lewis is going to go first, followed by Kasai, and then I think we'll do the raffle, and then we'll close it out.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. And again, thank you all for parsing out some portion of your afternoon to share with us, share with the students, and contribute to all of our edification on how our civic local government works, can work, and does work. To be brief, in reference to history of also I'm which a fan and maybe aficionado of, I would reference everyone to two publications. One being, actually you can't really see it too tough, is called Triumph in a White Suburb. Subline is the dramatic story of Teaneck, New Jersey, the first town in the nation to vote for integrated schools. Author is Reginald Damerel. And unfortunately, the book is out of print, but that doesn't mean that you can't find one. Most of us have internet access. Please search for the book. I believe there is a copy in our public library that is access to all. If you want something personally, again, please do search for it. And something that is just in print, the Historical Society created Images of America, Teaneck. Jay Levin is the author. And this was just published, in 2019 for the 125th anniversary of the township. So in reference to some historical information, background information on the township, not excluding our living history. We have people here that have expressed and shared their histories as residents and as servants of the township. And there are also those voices that are not part of this webinar. There are your friends and neighbors that are also living history just as you and I are. History is not something that's past tense. So please access the totality of our community. And if you find some place that you can fit in, by all means, get involved. And with that said, I will leave the last and closing comments to our Vice Chairwoman, Kasai Sanchez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kasai Sanchez. I'm the Vice President of Teaneck Youth Advisory Board. Firstly, I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight. To the future recipients of the prizes and the awards, I hope you enjoy, and also congratulations. With COVID, it's been so hard to connect with people, but we're so happy to have you all, and we look forward to having more events, and definitely more in-person ones as well once the whole COVID thing clears up. I hope through this event you were able to learn more about government and civics, and even if it's not what you're necessarily interested, I'm really happy you've gained more exposure to something new. One of the goals of Teaneck Youth Advisory Board is to inspire the youth of Teaneck and also to bridge the gap between Teaneck Township officials and the youth of Teaneck. So we are so avid and committed to doing just that. To all of our panelists, thank you so much for speaking tonight. And for all of the students, once again, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you have a beautiful night.
Thank you, Kasai. Thank you, Youth Advisory Board, TNEC Council, TNEC Board of Education, our manager, Fire Department, Police Departments, our Board of Education. It's been a pleasure. All in all, I think we could all agree municipal government is really cool, and I think everybody should explore how they can fit into it.
Great job, Yab. Great job, Kwan, Ben, Sai, Shay. Thank you. Great job.
We have one last bit of housekeeping here to do for the individuals that participated, that sent their name in the chat. We have 3 grand prizes that we'd like to raffle off, and I'm going to share my screen here. But before I do, I would just like to implore anyone or any student that was listening here today to consider joining the Youth Advisory Board. I think Kasai and Ben can speak to how beneficial it can be, and as you can see, just being involved, you have direct access to our local officials. So it's something that could be extremely beneficial for you in your future. So please consider doing so if you're interested. You can email us at yab@tnecnewjersey.gov, or you can also reach out on our various social media platforms. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I have a list of names here of folks that have reached out to me in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the names up, and then I'm going to run this wheel randomizer. The first prize that we will be raffling off here this afternoon will be a small Bluetooth speaker. So we have 3 prizes. There's a small Bluetooth speaker, a larger Bluetooth speaker, and then we also have some AirPods. So I'm going to go, and this will be for the small Bluetooth speaker.
Wow, this is really cool. This Wheel of Fortune.
Okay.
Wow, Mark, that's awesome.
So Mark, you are the winner of the small Bluetooth speaker. So I'm going to go ahead, close this out, remove your name from the list here, and then run it again for the second prize, which will be the large Bluetooth speaker.
I wish I threw my name in the raffle.
All right, Julian, you are the winner. I have your email. I will reach out to you to let you know how to claim your prize. Let me remove your name here. And this is for the big one, the AirPods.
Can use this for good and welfare.
Ryan
Lots of entertainment.
Armeni is our final winner. Thank you all for participating. This was a great event, and like I said, please, if you are interested, reach out to us so that you can help us host cool events like this in the future. Thank you all.
Great job, Quan.
I just want to once again thank everyone for joining us this evening.
Have a great start to the week. Be safe out there.
Stay well, everyone.
Good.